Today on the Simmons Scoop, we're talking Miami, Georgia, and Florida, and we got Director of Recruiting Chad Simmons here. He has spent the entire week so far down in the Sunshine State. Actually, he's there right now, gathering intel, and boy, do we have a lot to cover. So, guys, before we get started, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. This is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube, and we want you to be a part of it. All right, let's bring on Director of Recruiting Chad Simmons. Chad, we're talking some Miami Hurricane recruiting because the Canes have the number 12 ranked class in the country coming out of the dead period, but I thought there might be a commit before the dead period. Talking Jalen Waters, when he came off that UF commitment, it looked like he was about to become a Miami Hurricane commit, but he kind of hit the brakes. What's going on with this recruitment right now?
Yeah, Josh, everything still points to Miami, being the team to beat. Obviously he's been committed to Florida State and Florida in the past. So obviously Miami's trying to, I think they want to get him committed, but, getting him committed and locking him in is hard to do, as we've seen with Florida State and Florida. So they're going to have to play the long game regardless of when he makes that decision. But I think right now, according to Waters himself, he wants to slow things down a little bit. Take some trips this spring. We'll get back to Miami probably multiple times in the coming months, and then make a decision after he takes some official visits. Look, Miami to me, and based on intel and even Jalen talking, I mean, he raves about Miami, the staff, obviously committed to Will Harris at Florida. He's now at Miami. He loves the crystal ball. He has former teammates there from Armwood at Miami. So a lot of things really play into Miami's favor here.
All right, let's go from the Tampa Bay area down to South Florida. Chaminade Madonna. They got a couple prospects Miami is after. Let's talk Jason Lopez. Really intriguing recruitment. Two-sport star here, hoops and football, but his football recruitment has really shot up after having a monster season. What's the latest between him and the Canes?
Yeah, man, first time for me seeing him over the weekend at Under Armour Miami, and he did not disappoint. One of Charles Power's top performers over the weekend, and really showed why. I think he had, 1,300 plus yards as a junior. I think 14, 15 touchdowns, 70 plus catches. And you mentioned two-sport star. He has true basketball offers to play hoops at places like Arizona State, TCU, South Florida. So a true two-sport athlete with options. And I think, his mind has kind of shifted from maybe thinking basketball at one time to football. And I think where football comes in, Miami leads the way. I think they're the local program. They love to recruit that high school, obviously one of the top programs in the state of Florida. They produce players. They win championships. They come out college prepared to compete. And then you have Kevin Beard on Miami's side doing a great job. Everybody calls him KB. Kids rave about his personality. Easy to talk to. He played there. He's from there. So a lot of things factor into this decision. But I think Miami, look, there's other programs, Florida State, Clemson, Florida, Kentucky, other programs trying to battle here. But Miami's definitely setting the pace.
All right, let's stay at Chaminade Madonna. Now, here's another name Canes fans already know. That's running back Derek Cooper. He's the number 2 ranked running back right behind Savion Hyder. The question is, though, Chad, will it be hard for Miami to keep him in state?
Yeah, I mean, they're going up against some tough competition for sure. I mean, he's got the OV schedule, I think, locked into schools like Georgia, Ohio State, Auburn, Penn State. So obviously some top program. I think Bama's in there as well. You have some top programs Miami has to work against to keep him at home. But look, nobody can say they're closer to home than the University of Miami. They want to keep him close, and he is very close with his mom. She's a big part of his recruitment. Basically, Derek told me over the weekend that schools are recruiting her harder than they are recruiting him. So that's a big thing for Miami. The running back coach, Matt Merritt, head coach, Mario Cristobal. I think Miami's in a good spot. Look, this is going to be a battle, but I think obviously family, specifically his mom being close to home, favors Miami, easy to get to. He's been there a lot. He'll be back multiple times this spring and summer. I think Miami is going to be a team tough to beat, but you can't count out those national programs like the Bamas, Georgias, Ohio State, and et cetera. So, look, not going to be an easy battle, but I like Miami's position right now heading into the spring.
Yeah, Cane fans got to like where they sit, at least in the spring. Let's head over to Miami Northwestern High School. We're going to hit on a pair of top prospects there. Wide receiver Calvin Russell, 6'5.5", 190 pounds, number 4 ranked wide receiver in America, and he's got parents that went to Miami. So is he a Cane lock? What's the deal with Calvin Russell?
Yeah, I'll start with the Kane lock, and that's no. I think people would maybe have thought that, a year or two ago, and maybe he ends up at Miami in the end, but definitely not a lock. And I think the school to watch that Miami's competing with the most is Syracuse right now. He's been there 3 or 4 times, was there when Syracuse beat Miami late in the season last year as well. But going back to Miami, obviously, look, he's been there many times. Miami Northwestern's put a lot of guys at the University of Miami. His mom's in the track Hall of Fame at the University of Miami. Again, it's right around the corner from home. And again, Kevin Beard. Beard is known right now as one of the top recruiters in the game. Kids love him, gravitate towards his personality. That's the lead guy again for Calvin Russell. Miami's definitely a strong contender. They definitely could end up with Russell in this class. They just have competition. Syracuse kind of leads the way there. He mentions Georgia, Florida, Florida State, Ohio State, some other schools to watch. But, I think right now Miami's stiffest competition is Syracuse. And if they push and they work and they really want to add him to this class, they have a great shot here.
All right, let's stay at Miami Northwestern. They have a safety named Tadarius Hughes who is committed to FSU. But I saw what you wrote about him. It sounds like the Canes are a threat to flip him.
Yeah, they're definitely the one to watch. I mean, I think Syracuse is one there too, but I would say the biggest competition for Florida State is the University of Miami. There's been some changeover on the defensive staff there at Miami, so he's still kind of learning, the fit, the scheme, the people, the chemistry with them and him. But he'll be back a couple of times. He wasn't there earlier this week. He was looking to be there on Monday, didn't make that trip, but he plans to be at Miami a couple of times this spring, kind of fill out the staff, hear what they have to say as far as if the scheme's going to be the same, different, how he fits with the personalities there. But look, Miami's definitely on his radar. He's been a long time commit to Florida State. They're the number 1 team right now, but Miami has a real shot to knock them off, and they'll be in this race until those papers are signed.
Okay, now we're going to wrap it up on this one. I saw running back Javian Mallory is getting a bunch of predictions rolling in favor of the Canes. Is he close to committing to Miami, or is you guys just putting in these as late or long-term projections?
Yeah, I think Miami definitely is trending here, Josh. I mean, they've been considered the favorite for some time. As far as decision timeline, still somewhat, a little murky there. There's been talk about maybe spring, maybe summer after some OVs, but I do think regardless if he commits sooner or even a little bit later, in a couple of months, I think Miami is going to be tough to beat. They've laid the groundwork there. He's been there numerous times, including this week from West Boca down there in South Florida. He's close with the staff. He sees their vision. He likes the way they run the football. So a lot of things factor into why we're putting the picks in for the University of Miami. He's a top target. It's close to home. He likes the staff. He likes the scheme. So a lot of things favor the University of Miami. If I had to pick, I kind of lean towards him committing, maybe before he gets to OVs at this point, making that decision, but he could decide to wait and take 3 or 4 OVs. Either way, I like Miami's position here.
All right. The Canes are active coming out of the dead period, and they are trending with some top recruits. Let's talk a little Georgia recruiting. The Dogs have the 17th ranked class in the country, but Dog fans, don't be surprised if it's top 10 by the end of spring. They are cooking right now, and this video we're going to focus on some of the Florida targets. Chad Simmons is down in the state of Florida, so let's talk about one of these top targets that you spoke with, and that is quarterback Dia Bell. Now, UGA doesn't have a quarterback commit yet. They're kind of slow playing it this cycle, but Dia Bell, while he's committed to Texas, it sounds like Georgia is not backing down.
No, definitely not. Obviously Jared Curtis is still the one everybody's watching with Georgia as they go back to Georgia, end up at Oregon. He's a one-time commit, obviously, but Dia Bell is a guy they offered in January. Have had, pretty strong, from what I'm told, dialogue there since the offer, from Mike Bobo to James Coley, Kirby Smart sprinkled in there a little bit as well. And, I think obviously there's communication. I think there's some level of interest, and even Dia said he's not going to cut off relationships. He's talking to schools like LSU and Ohio State as well. But the school I hear the most about as far as if a school does compete with Texas, or if there is a school to watch, if he does start to take visits to other schools, it could be Georgia. And he admits he likes the scheme at Georgia, obviously what they do from production level in the NFL and how they win championships. So, look, I think he's very strong with Texas right now with that commitment. You know, he loves A.J. Milwee and Steve Sarkisian, that offense, what Texas is doing as a program, back-to-back playoff seasons for them too. But Georgia's definitely not giving up on Diabell. The communication is there, is consistent on both sides, and there seems to be some level of interest. I guess we have to wait and see if he gets to Athens now or not.
Yeah, that's one to watch. All right, now you're swinging through the state of Florida, so of course you had to hit IMG Academy, UGA commitment. Zach Fort is there, and you did a little write-up on him. It sounds like he's going to take some visits. Who's still pushing here with his recruitment?
Yeah, I think multiple schools are obviously not giving up, not throwing the towel in, and trying to keep that communication and keep building that relationship. And I think if there's one school to watch, it's Notre Dame. I mean, I think there was some confidence there at Notre Dame when he was going through the process through the fall, last summer, even into this year. And then he up and kind of surprised a lot of people and committed to Georgia. He was there at Georgia one time only for a game late in the season. He loved it. Georgia, obviously, their resume and development speaks for itself, and he loves that Kirby Smart's a DB guy. You know, Zach is a safety, so Kirby playing that position. The defensive staff, Dante Williams, Travaris Robinson, all are involved with him as well from the Georgia side. But look, there's nothing out there official yet about him deciding to take visits or not. There's definitely some chatter, some rumblings there that he'll take 3, 4, 5 OVs, kind of go through the process, enjoy the process. But Georgia still is in a good position. But if there's one school to watch, if he does make it to South Bend again, it'd be Notre Dame.
All right, let's stay at the DB position down at Sarasota Booker High School. Chauncey Kennan, he's a top 10 DB in the country. And this one, it seems like it's another one of these Georgia-Florida State battles. How do you read it?
Yeah, he's going to take some OVs to other schools, but you mentioned it, Josh. Those two are the top schools, I think, based on multiple sources. I'll say that they feel that Georgia and FSU are battling for that top spot. And look, he visited Georgia for the first time back in January for a junior day, had his family up there, and there was some talk coming off that visit that he could commit to Georgia like within days of that trip. Now, look, the visit how wore off. He did not commit. But the interest is still there and it's still very high. The communication, I'm told, with Georgia is higher and more consistent than with any other program in the country. He has multiple coaches. Again, Coach Dante, Coach T-Rob, very much involved. Kirby Smart as well. I know he's very high on the Georgia board as far as elite corners in their eyes, and they're targeting him hard. And look, Florida State in-state program, not just that, but his sister is now a freshman at Florida State running track for the Seminoles. So there's family connections in Tallahassee. Yeah. It won't be easy to get him out of the state of Florida. Miami's involved as well. You know, LSU's in the mix, some other top programs. But right now, Georgia's battling Florida State mainly to get him out of the Sunshine State.
All right, let's talk about maybe, I know it's early in Georgia's 2026 cycle, but maybe the most important target in the Sunshine State is James Johnson, On3's number 1 ranked defensive lineman. The industry has him at number 6, but he's at North Fort Myers High School, and his recruitment has just been blowing up over the last couple months. Is UGA the team to beat?
Yeah, I mean, he says it. You know, I say it from my sources as well. What he tells me and goes public kind of matches up with what I hear on my side too, that, look, again, a lot like Kennan, went to Georgia for the first time in January, and he told me, James, that he didn't really had that much interest in Georgia initially. Look, he knew about Georgia and their, championship run the last couple of years and all of that. But it took him, I guess, Trey Scott getting down to him in January, convincing him to take a visit to Georgia a week or so later, getting him on campus, quote unquote, to him opened his eyes to Georgia football and kind of what they're about as a program. I mean, he saw the facilities, Athens as a community. He sat down with Trey Scott, looked at film, the scheme, how he could fit in. He met with Kirby Smart, learned about the weight program, and just a lot of things really checked boxes that he was looking for, and especially the player development side. Obviously, Georgia has a strong resume there under Trey Scott and Kirby Smart of putting defensive linemen into the NFL. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles this past season, when the Super Bowl there, how many guys they had, and you have a guy like Mykel Williams, first-round guy this year. So a lot of that really hit home. with James. And look, he's going to take trips. He named his top 10 schools over the weekend. He's going to be at Colorado, Miami, Florida, Syracuse, many other top programs in the coming months. But right now, heading into the spring, Georgia is the team to beat for James Johnson.
All right, Georgia looking to move up the charts. We'll see what they do this spring, but I think they're going to stay hot. All right, let's talk a little Florida Gator recruiting. The Gators, they have 2 commits right now, quarterback Will Griffin and Devin Jackson, but the Gators are cooking on the trail under Billy Napier, especially heading out of December and into the new year. This cycle is just getting started, so let's get to the intel. Chad, you've been making the rounds in Florida. You were at IMG Academy, where you talked with 6'5", 295-pound offensive lineman Brett Collegier, and he is going to be on campus in Gainesville this weekend. Where does UF stand for this one?
Look, Breck has not officially, cut his list down or named favorites or eliminated anybody, but Florida, I would put in that upper half. If he had a list somewhere in that top group somewhere, whether that be, 4 schools, 6 schools, 7 schools. Look, he's still taking trips everywhere. Look, he's from Colorado. That's where his family's at, going to school here at IMG. So it's very important to kind of get his family on campus. He'll be around this spring all over the place. Like you said, one is Florida coming up here soon. He's been to Florida multiple times for games, for junior days. He's had one-on-one time with Rob Sell, Billy Napier, the coaching staff in Gainesville. He likes the community. He likes the fan base. He likes the people. He likes SEC football. Many SEC schools are on his list in play, and Florida is one of those. I think that has a real shot to get him on campus multiple times between now and the time he makes that decision. One thing about Breck I found pretty interesting is he was looking to commit early at one time. After talking to him at IMG a few days ago, he's kind of changed plans. He's going to take his recruitment into the season. He's going to watch some teams play, get to a few games. He'll take some OVs in the summer. He could add a few during the season, but either way, he's going to take more time than he thought, and Florida's definitely a strong player in this race.
All right, let's stay with talking top players in the state of Florida. Isaiah Williams, he's a priority target for UF. He's a former FSU commitment from Leesburg, Florida, which is right down the street from Gainesville. So he's On3's #1 ranked linebacker, and he's locked in a June official visit to the Gators. Who's at the top of this recruitment right now?
Man, he's a wild card, Josh. I mean, you mentioned he's a one-time FSU commit, also one-time Syracuse commit, also one-time Louisville commit. So, look, he's a wild card. Look, I think he's sometimes, as anybody can get caught up in the emotions of a visit and commit or a phone call and can be influenced there. So, look, he's got the OVs locked in. You mentioned Florida's one of those. I can say at one time in between the Syracuse and the Florida State commit, the decommit and commit to Florida State, that Florida was the school trending, for Isaiah Williams going back to late summer, coming off that Future 50 event down at IMG in Bradenton, Florida, talking to him, talking to sources. Around that time, Florida was the top school to beat. So it's kind of come back around where Florida's very much involved. He's been to games. He's been to the Swamp. He likes the staff. Ron Roberts leading the way there. He likes how he fits into that scheme, how their linebackers play in that aggressive mode. He feels that fits him. With this one, it's really hard to say today. Maybe is there a team to beat? Maybe, maybe not. But I can say Florida is one of the top schools to watch in this race. Again, he's taking trips to places like Alabama, Georgia, a lot of top programs. And we've seen he's not scared to commit to schools farther away. But like you mentioned, Florida's very close to home. It's an easy trip in the spring, easy trip for official visit in the summer, easy for games in the fall. And we've seen by the pattern of his commit and decommit, he's going to be a guy you have to recruit until the very end and get him signed in December.
Yeah, he's just getting his reps in, just like anything. If you're great at it, you got to get those reps in. So by his 4th, 5th,
practice makes perfect, man.
He'll have it down.
Yeah.
So
no doubt about that.
Stay tuned. All right. Talking about commitments, Canes linebacker commitment Jordan Campbell will be back in Gainesville this spring. You just spoke to him recently. He also visited Gainesville in January. So how big of a threat is UF here to flip Campbell?
I'm not ready to call really any school a true threat yet to Miami. Look, he's a hometown kid at Miami Carroll City. He's been to Miami too many times to count. But look, when guys keep taking visits, they're leaving that door cracked, and Florida wants to take advantage of that. So they got him on campus in January, getting him back in this spring. They would love for him to lock in an OV. He hasn't done that yet, to my knowledge, as far as OVs to Florida, but he's looking at Missouri, Nebraska. So he's keeping some other schools in the mix, keeping them warm. But he'll be a tough pull. But the more you can get him back on campus, the more you can build that relationship, the more you can get him familiar with the program, the people that are there, the coaches, the players, the scheme, and kind of sell him on that fit. He's still giving you a chance. Florida's trying to capitalize on that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's stay at the linebacker position. The Gators are involved in a bunch of top-tier linebackers within the state of Florida. This one is a top 10 linebacker from Palm Beach Gardens, Adam Balogun Ali. He is at, like I said, Palm Beach Gardens. UF making him a priority. What did you learn when you spoke with him?
I probably learned my biggest takeaway is he's still pretty open. He's actually at Missouri right now as we record this, Josh. I mean, that kicks off. I think he's going to see about 10 schools in the next couple of months. So, look, he's been to Florida. Florida's on his list. I would put he's trying to come out of this spring, maybe end of April, with a group of maybe 5 or 6 schools he's going to lock in. He has no OVs locked in right now. He wants to go through this spring, get on campus, see some practices, interact with players and coaches, ask the necessary questions, come out of this, lock in the OVs. It could be anywhere 4, 5, 6 schools. Going into this spring, I think if he had to pick 5 or 6 right now, Florida would be on that list. I think they're in a good position. They've had him on campus multiple times. Again, Coach Roberts has really connected there. His resume, his experience, the scheme. That's one thing very important to Adam is the scheme, how he fits. Does his play style fit that scheme? He sees that potentially at Florida. He knows some people there. He's going to drive to Florida in a couple of weeks after school one day and watch a practice, he told me, in mid-March. So he's very intrigued about it. Look, he's a smart kid, man. He asks the right questions. He wants to really dissect and make sure he can fit in every scheme, on the field, off the field. So Florida, I would say right now, look, it's wide open on his list. But if there was a list, a top schools list, Florida would be on it and would be getting an official visit. And I like their chances right now to get one of those OBs come June.
All right, Gator fans, talk to Chad and I. How are you guys feeling? Only 2 commitments right now, but there's about to be a bunch more. Who, in your opinion, is the most important recruit on the Gators board right now? Let us know. Comment section below.